Good morning, everybody. It's a little bit after 8, and we want to keep working while we're eating, or eating while we're working. We're good to go. Thank you for, first of all, thank you, Comey and Ruben and Darren and all for a wonderful dinner for those who attended last night, and thank you for giving us a good time. We're going to start this meeting off. We're going to start off with, do we have a quorum? Thank you, Maggie. And any public comment periods for this one? And then we have any members of the public? I think my one member here is Rebecca, so I don't think she wants to speak, so I put her on the spot. She's one that asked me for this, so I think if you have time. Okay, so we'll close the public comment, and should we start off with the Pledge of Allegiance? It's not on there, but we're going to do it anyway. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready to begin? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So yesterday we learned basically SCAG 101, and I think we had some healthy discussions, which will lead into some discussions today, because we were all here having that discussion. And I want to thank, again, the staff and the policy teams, a lot of in-depth thought and process of things we have to do and things that we can do in this next year as the EAC. And as you committee chairs take your committees into not only your required business that you have to do every couple of years and keep that flowing, but also what else would you like to see during those discussions, during your committees when you have your committee members there, and what are those interests and how they fit into our public policy going forward. Today we're going to do what's our vision, so review last year. I mean, yes, it was really the nuts and bolts of SCAG. Today is what's our agenda going forward for the next year, over and above the required things that SCAG needs to do. And we're going to first start off with a review of our retreat that was setting all the records, and that's all obviously Cindy and Maggie and everyone else's work, because they did had a great turnout for last year. But who's going to present that? I'm sorry. Javier. It was a great conference, and see what and they did a great survey this year, right? And we get to look at that.
Okay, good morning. Are you ready for today? Yes? Okay, great. So I wanted to take an opportunity to talk about the General Assembly in a more meaningful way this year. The last couple of retreats, I've heard a need to concentrate on communications and how we're outreaching to our general audiences and our core audiences as well. But I wanted to point out to sort of the staffing that my division has experienced over the last couple of years. We have been nimble for an organization this large and covering 191 cities, a massive work portfolio, as well as our major signature events. And also, we may, as I've been in a leadership position here over the last few years, we've also been recovering from a pandemic, and how that has impacted our events has been really meaningful as well. And everything's getting a lot more expensive, and we've needed to restructure how we think about our communication strategy, how we think about our event strategy, and really also bringing staff and expertise that knows the business, knows the industry, and knows how to track these trends. So as you all know, I have great staff, and Kevin mostly because of our legislative work, but I have another sector, which is our communications department, which we've tried to restructure over the last few years, and that is led by Anna Vallanatos, who's more behind the scenes and and she comes from Metro. We tend to steal a lot of people from Metro. Um, but I truly believed in getting people in the right roles and the right expertise in-house. And with that, Anna helped me recruit someone very talented, Mel Roger Chang, who's came from Gallup. And if you know Gallup, they do a lot of the polling. And if you do campaigning, when campaigns used to be good, the Gallup is a big player in that. So I will start with some overall metrics. And as you all know, we had a very successful year in the execution of the General Assembly, and I'm going to be sharing our evaluation. We just started tracking this over the last couple of years or so, and it's very important to us to have accurate information moving forward. It helps us optimize, and I've heard our president say we need to work smarter, not harder, and this is part of that process. So we had a total of 902 registrations, and up 5 from last year. But I wanted to point out here is that we had 83 participants, more participants than last year. We had a huge drop-off of about 200 people from last year, something that my staff pointed out to me, and we needed to get closer to a 12 to 15% drop-off, which we did this year, which was really successful. So on the right side, it shows our social media engagement outside of the event, and we had nearly 5,000 impressions of our GA content on social media and an engagement rate of 3.9% within that. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that later, but essentially, these numbers didn't mean anything to me, but my team has explained that 3.9% is really the engagement rate of all of total engagement, so likes, comments, shares divided by our total number of users, and you want to be between 1 and 5%, and the closer that we're getting to that 5% or above is better, so we're trending in the right direction. And next. Sponsors and sponsorships. As you know, and all of you that have to fundraise for political campaigns, this is not easy. We have a great host committee, but on staff, it's Perla and I that lead these efforts. And shout out to Perla, who's amazing at this work and has been such a great addition to our organization. So we are very proud of our sponsorship effort this past year. We exceeded our fundraising goal, and we also took a look at our materials. We revamped our sponsorship brochure. We changed tiers in that. And given the rising costs of dollar amounts for the event, we moved away from buying promotional items and also trying to be more sustainable for the organization, and that did also give us some cost savings. So a little different this year, we began outreach to potential sponsors early, helping us to secure more time for groups to internally work out their sponsorship commitments throughout the year. People are in different fiscal schedules, and we have to work with our partners on that. Also, you are our best ambassadors to this outreach, and we are also in a lot of competition with many other conferences in the region. And that, it's not like it's a hard sell, because I truly do believe that this is one of the best conferences in the industry, but we're not a contract studies. At the end of the day, people that sponsor maybe contract studies might get a contract with a city. And so it is a lot of conversations with our sponsors. And we also had a bit of a lull coming from, years of pandemic, which we hadn't had, the ability to host a big event to now. So we're just coming back stronger and better in this process. Also, this past year, our host committee was rather large. It was Brown acted. So we decided to keep it nimble, do fewer meetings that allowed our staff to work with sponsors directly, and a lot of more email communication, and that turned out to be very successful. So, and our goal was 325,000. We exceeded by 343,500. So as part of our evaluation efforts, we also did a field survey of the event attendees, and looking at the responses as you see here, we see that mostly we heard from our regional council, policy committee members, and other elected officials from across the region. And this is helpful because you are our core audience and we need to hear from you, but also give us insights on how to reach out to maybe other partners and get feedback from them as well in the future. But we learned that email, no surprise, is our most effective way of promoting the attendance of the event, and it's consistent with past years as we see attendees really valuing the program that we present to you all. Now, we also did a question in the survey about brand health. In this past year, we've really focused on a massive brand architecture process at SCAG. I'm really happy to say that we're sort of in the first quarter of all of that, understanding our brand, making sure that we're reaching out to our partners and taking information. How do people see us? In the past, SCAG has really committed to having a strong, we help our regions move forward, but that has consisted more in a logo, colors, and we want to expand our brand architecture to be more meaningful, and that's a process that my team is focusing on the next few quarters. So, and as I mentioned, we added some brand health metrics to our survey this year, and our Net Promoter Score, which is determined by asking how likely a consumer is to recommend on a scale of 1 to 10. That's sort of the NPS score. And our respondents who gave a score of 9 to 10 are considered promoters, and their prevalence is calculated into an overall score to indicate consumers feeling about what the consumers are feeling about the organization. And so we got a Net Promoter Score. Oh, and that is, we also have detractors. So the score, the NPS score, is basically your number of promoters minus the number of detractors, and then you get this. And the Net Promoter Score that we got is 41, which falls into a range of 31 to 70, which is considered absolutely great. Industry standard is way below that. So we were really happy that, we are on the right track as far as our attendee satisfaction of the event. Yeah. So where do we go from here? We have our 60th anniversary next year, and I think that I think we booked the band last night, right? At the so we'll be starting preparations for next year, and I think I welcome all of your feedback on how to make it better from an external perspective. I think that we're doing really well. I think we're trying to get into how do we communicate better, how do we close those drop-off numbers, and also how do we make more money as we're trying to get more sponsorships. So thank you for the opportunity to present on this item. I welcome your feedback on how it went, what are things that we can improve, and also, anything that you'd like to see at the 60th anniversary.
Thank you, Javiera. And I would say you guys do a fantastic job. And I do have some ideas of what I want to bring up to the group. And we've all been elected for a long time, and you see the progression of your state of the city, for example. In the old days, 20 years ago, used to be the mayor up there talking and being kind of boring, and then a while ago, we went to, we're going to put videos, and we're going to do pizzazz and make it more of a party setting. If you look at the survey, what I was looking through here, the main reason why the sponsorships come is to talk to us, and the main reason we want to go is to talk to each other and have fun. So those are the two basics. But do want to get, some of the main sponsors do want to get a message out. How do we allow them to get their message out so they feel like should it be a audio video content? Should it be more of, I sat and watched many of the panels because we did the introductions. As elected officials, interested in what they're saying, in the predictions, should we be a little more pizzazz in those panels? If we don't do the panels, then you don't get the sponsors because they want to be able to talk about their products and goods. But is there a better way of doing that? So I'm just going to plant that seed. I remember when we went from, let's read the talking notes that someone gave me to put it on videos, which we do a great job for the presidential, take off that video. But what else can we do to jazz it up even more? But for the main reason is the advertisers want to come out and talk to us, probably. Cindy.
Well, that's what I was gonna say the same thing. But I will add to that. I just want to say that it's incredible. Thank you to the staff, Parlay, all the work that went into making this happen. When you look at the survey and you see that as far as satisfaction, 92%, those numbers are huge. And so that says a lot about our conference and the content and things that we're putting together. But again, back to what Kurt says, the networking opportunities, how do we make that happen? Because it seems like that's what people really want. That's what they're there for. So thank you.
I did want to say as well that this past year we had a lot more time for networking opportunities because our regional council meeting and the General Assembly portions were a little bit shorter, so that's something to consider as well. I don't know, I think there might have been less items or less discussion, but that gave us a lot more time for networking. That is the number one complaint that we get, is that not enough time for networking.
Ruben, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a really good mic. Just a PSA, as it were, from your friendly neighborhood spider lawyer. Recall that as elected officials, you're all subject to what's called the behested payments rule from the FPPC regulations. If you need any help navigating through that or being reminded, I'm happy to do it. But generally speaking, if you solicit a contribution or a sponsorship of at least $5,000 and SCAG receives it, we have an obligation to report that solicitation and contribution on a form called a Form 830. Comey's looking surprised. I hope it's not a surprise. Yeah, okay, good. The one open question that I had that I don't have at the ready right now, and I will get the answer, is whether you also have an obligation to report it on your local agency's website. I don't think so, because the money comes to SCAG, and we'll confirm that. It looks like Javiera knows. So just a brief reminder on that.
That's correct. I think we've checked that before. So.
Yeah, we did look into that, Ruben, and they would not be required to for their local agency.
So Javier, you're talking about the social type of things. Obviously, the VIP cocktail or sponsorship cocktail party the night before. How do we integrate more of those social settings then?
Well, that's hard because I think the time capacity is but I think maybe before our dinners, maybe there's space after the panels, something to consider. But is that something that you would like to see more of, kind of smaller group settings and or is it more throughout the year or at the GA event?
David?
I was just going to follow up on your comments about the sponsors also wanting some face time with us if it makes sense, any opportunity for a small type of coffee meeting, VIP reception. We do it for our group. We do it, we have lots of receptions, but is there ability to carve out some small 30-minute, 45-minute period of time during the conference where it's thanking our sponsors and allowing them to meet with us?
And maybe it's a regional thing too. Maybe you take a breakout time in that period by counties where the local city and the soups and whoever else is in that area can kind of go over. So you have more of a focus of, if I'm a sponsor, I have someone I want to go talk to in our lobby. Now I know where they're going to be for a certain period of time. So maybe, before the dinner or before the VIP reception, or there's an hour where we break off into We do the same thing at County City Conference. We're big off into districts. And so, my council from my 5 cities come together. We kind of talk about what's more important in our little region, and maybe that's a way to integrate some of that in there. Otherwise, you're kind of randomly trying to find who you want to talk to on this 3 days, and maybe I'll bump into them, maybe I don't, depending on where they're at.
Yeah, that's really interesting. This past year, we sort of had the same concept, but my team and I came up with this additional value add for one of the sponsorship tiers, which was to share the attendee lists with the relevant sponsors. And as you can probably see, there's a lot of receptions that break off, in between or after the
dinner, yeah.
reception. Kurt Pringle comes to mind, and they have an Orange County focus. I think that maybe we can be a little bit more intentional in that piece. But that's something that we just piloted this past year, and people were really interested in getting that list of attendees because.
And some of those entities, as I got invited to quite a few, are specific, like, hey, this is not a county thing, but it's a subject thing, The builders will have theirs and this and that, which I don't think you could stop. They're still gonna continue to have their little sponsorship parties, but if we did it maybe an hour before the VIP reception, that we're gonna break off, we have 4 or 5, 6 different rooms, geographical or subject matter, whatever, and that leads into the VIP reception, possibly.
Just to add to that, because I think that's a nice progression in where we've been. I want to thank Javiera for our leadership and the team that she has. Perla is amazing in what they've done the last 2 years. I think we definitely had the best GA as far as I'm concerned this last May. What we are also concerned about is to not overschedule folks and make it such that things are mandated, because there is some organic nature by which people are getting together, and I think it's come from, when you have 800 people together, it's really hard to steer them in all the right directions. People make those choices, but I think the point you're making is to be more intentional and identify where the opportunities are. The initiative that Javiera was talking about, where some sponsors now have access to who's attending, so they can pre-plan who they want to meet with. And this happens in just about every conference. People begin to talk to you before the conference, knowing that you're going to be there, so they're scheduling. We might want to be more intentional in creating space for that. And then maybe the one opportunity is to allow our member agencies at the county level to have room where they can gather and have those conversations that they need to gather. Because one of the key thing why this is a very important signature event for us is our real legal obligation for that meeting is to approve the general fund budget. It takes all of about 2 minutes to do that, and then we can all go home. But we've sort of created this infrastructure around this one obligation that allows us to actually have a convening of our region in a very elegant way to talk about issues of the day. And we could also begin to use those panels to maybe allow sponsors to do something more pizzazz, as you said, than just stand up and introduce the panel. It's going to require some programming. So we're going to take all of this information and see how we can make sure it doesn't overburden the programming and make it difficult for people to get around. So.
Well, you talked about the legal obligation for us to have the annual board meeting for all the members, which doesn't take very long. But it's also an opportunity for us to really network between ourselves.
Yeah.
And to see maybe some of we do have the lunch where we have the award winning for our projects at SCAG, but maybe some of those major partners you have to have the ability to have 2 minutes of what their goals or accomplishments of as well, with, in a video type of thing, and say, what's the best practices? I enjoy going talk to my colleagues and say, what are you doing? What are your problems? So I can learn. Yeah. And how do we do that and foster that environment when you're kind of narrowly focused on your region or your city most of the time? So Luis?
And we'll also, sorry, Supervisor, we'll also be looking for you to give us some ideas of how we celebrate the 60th anniversary
Yeah, 60th.
of
We all
SCAG.
get Rolex watches.
So, Rolex.
Ruben's gonna figure that out.
How can I go after Rolex watches? You know, in looking at different ways of perhaps creating those breakout sessions, regional breakouts, it's a great idea. But looking also possibly segmenting by committee, whether we're looking at environment and energy or technology or transportation, I think that there would be vendors that would be willing to sponsor and step up to the plate if they knew they had a group of people in a setting, in a get-together, based on specific areas of work focus. Kind of what, and council's gonna have to look at this as well, but in our last meeting of the Energy and Environment and Energy Committee, might have been the one before that, but during public comment, we had one gentleman that public comment introduced himself during public comment, did an introduction to his company, and did a pitch for business right on public comment. So I think that that indicates that there is an interest to get in front of us as committees in one way or another. I don't know that regional breakouts are any better or any worse than
Subject.
committee-based, but we should look at different ways of providing those breakout sessions and see what, you know, kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought this up because over the last 2 years, since, you know, it hasn't been very long since I've been in this position, but we've been mirroring the panels. So we have the 4 panels, right? 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, or 2 in the afternoon, then later afternoon, based on our plan pillars, which are mobility, communities, the economy, and the environment. Correct? And so I'm like, so I think the you know, we haven't had a hard time selling, you know, because there's always a lot of interest in those policy areas. I think where we go from that and where to sustain that and how to recalibrate it to have a more intentionality in the program, it is something that we work with our planning teams quite a bit. If you went to the economy panel, for example, this year, it was really a follow-up of our economic summit. And we were very intentional about that and working, you know, with our GLUE council members as well. But that's a struggle. And I'll be frank, you know, for the sustainability awards, is something that we'll need to look at quite, you know, closely, because it is an area where I have trouble selling that big event, and it's our most well-attended event. You have you have a critical mass in that event, but I don't know if that's resonating with our sponsors. So that's something that, you know.
For our sponsors, they know what we're doing, and they get that. Again, they want to promote a product, a service, get in front of the people that makes those decisions, and not necessarily for SCAG, but maybe for a city level or something, or networking, so they have the ability, you know, how many of us got business cards over the 3 days to say, hey, can we get an appointment on your calendar? A lot. And that's usually the case when you're out in public. And so, again, those awards are great, but I think you could add to that lunch, and maybe not take away, but maybe make the presentations a little bit, you know, quicker on the awards, but also add, what is the vision of SCAG? What's the vision of Orange County? What is the top 3 things we want to work on outside of our basic things? I don't know, maybe something that brings that board of directors together and your sponsors to say, here's our common theme or vision, and you just, you know, not necessarily fill it full of ads, but you could definitely have sponsors levels for it too.
That's great feedback, and you know, our videos are very costly to make, and even for the sustainability awardees, we want them to use them in the future and promote SCAG in the programming. But you know, it's after we give them, you know, the videos, there's no way for me to track it. So
And the entity getting it should make their own too.
Yeah.
You know, but limit. Hey, you got a minute to show your story.
Yep.
Mr. President, if I may just respond briefly to Supervisor Blancarte's issue of the advertisement at a committee meeting. mean, certainly this body as the policymaking head of the larger body has within your purview to make a call, if you wanted to, that you would allow such things. But I will tell you, the distinction between the conferences that we're talking about here, where the sponsors certainly do want to get out there and, I mean, we've seen it, right? We see Edison, they get up there and they share what they have to offer. A conference is significantly different than a business meeting of this body and all the committee meetings, right? So my approach with the city clients that I work with is public comment is strictly for members of the public to offer their comments on either your agenda items or issues within your subject matter jurisdiction. It is not, in my view, within a legislative body subject matter jurisdiction to promote the private business interests of any individual or company. Now, again, policy call for you all, but I liken it as well to campaigning at city council meetings. As the minute a candidate or a potential candidate stands up at public comment and vote for me or I'm running for, I will, if the mayor doesn't stop them, I will. And I've never lost that battle. But the law gives you broad discretion to allow what you want at your meetings. It's, I don't know if it's discussion to have here now, but certainly you've got some room to have that discussion if you want it.
I should add that there already is a prohibition in the policy manual for
Yeah.
advertisement at policy committees. Now, I don't know that it fully covers public comment, that it's a little bit different, but certainly I think the organization has already weighed in that that's not, the appropriate venue for that.
Luis, you want to follow up, or? Yeah, David.
I just didn't get, I should have started with it. Maybe the mic's off. I should have started with it, but I wanted to thank Javiera and all of staff for an incredible General Assembly, really one of the best, as Comey mentioned earlier, as a number of us have, one of the best I've been to so far as a member of SCAG, and I'm very excited for the 60th, one word, fireworks. No, I would love to see. We tried. I would love to see anything that you will come up with that will be tremendously exciting and new for the 60th, and I'd like us to push this whole year individually or as a body to make sure we have every city there to vote for the important matters, and they'll be represented. They'll see how great our General Assembly is, and not comparing it to others, but a lot of people who I asked, why weren't you there? Their comment was, well, I'm going in a week or 2 weeks to this one. Well, they can go to both, or they can skip the other one and come to ours. So that's just my comment. Thank you again.
That is such a good goal for us to have every city delegate. And I know that we are pretty good, Maggie, on representation from delegates, but that'd be a good goal for this year, and we can start that early.
And, well, we got 1, 2, 3, but I just want to follow up on the lunch thing again. Maybe, I would say our biggest partners are probably the COG or the regional transportation, maybe?
Our biggest partners? Yeah.
So maybe they have 2 minutes each to say what's going on in their world. I mean, Luis can talk about lithium production. We could talk about the Bright Line in San Bernardino, or something like that to highlight, and that would kind of get the locals to come say, hey, because they want to put in their 2 cents in that 1 or 2 minute video too. That's on us to provide, though, not for you to produce. Okay. Jenny, first.
I think this is a topic that we'll have to kind of continue to think about over the next year, but one thing just that I wanted to share was in terms of the region, our county, organically, most of us got together for breakfast in the morning, both mornings. So we found tables outside and, we kind of put them together. And so I don't know if there's even, encouraging people that that could be a time if they really wanted to do stuff with their county. But I know we started it on a small scale last year and it grew this year. So because we tried it, we were in a different spot and there wasn't much room. And so we're like, well, maybe those tables outside because it's still cool in the morning. But anyway, that was one thought that I had was that it's a spot where it could still be a little bit organic. It wouldn't have to be fully organized, because if someone really wanted to talk to someone else in another county, you wouldn't say, no, you can't. But And then I had another thought, and I don't know what it was. Anyway, I'll share that one for now.
Thank you.
At the reception, it was still loud, and they kept turning it up. And it was like, it started out, I was like, oh, this is not too bad. The one outside the second one, they start it because that's one of those things that you go because you want to talk to people, and it started out at a kind of okay level, and then they just kept turning the volume up and up and up and up and up, and at some point it was like, all right, I'm done. Like,
Rocky?
Thank you, Chair. Just a thought of, instead of squeezing more stuff into the same amount of time, I think that there is a group of folks that look at that beautiful setting and think, hey, if we came a day early or stayed a day after, golf would be a thing. And my guess is you could find sponsorships for a golf outing and an opportunity for interaction at those things too, so.
That has been recommended many times. As a public agency, I think we've always shied away for good reasons about wanting to have a golf activity as part of that. We've been doing this event in this manner for, over 10 years now, and each year it's grown and gotten bigger and gotten, I think, more attention put on it. But at its core, it's not just bringing the region together, it's an opportunity to talk about the things that we talk about all the time to a larger audience. And that's so hard to do because our issues are so complicated that we've really wanted to focus on that being the part of it. We know people are going golfing after, and that's great. Like, we're not stopping them. But that's been our hesitancy, is to put staff resources or anything else into organizing some sort of golf activity as a public agency.
And it's a great idea, and a lot of people do golf. I have been involved in a public event that had golfing attached to it that was on the news. And,
Yeah, Ryan J. That's right.
you remember that?
I remember
In the
exactly.
same location, actually. And it just, the stink was with us at Caltrans for about 10 years. And it's hard to explain that we're not spending public funds on this. It was just so difficult because we had staff that were involved in the golf tournament, and
Maybe
it got
we
spun
get,
away.
because I'm sure you get discounted room rates for this big thing, and we stick with our 2-night, 3-day ordeal, but it has the option to
Option of coming
continue
before,
at the rate on our own dime if we want to stay and do some after party.
Well, we could also, we could encourage folks to do that where but it's not staff related.
Yeah.
Staff is not involved, yeah.
Jam.
And you'd probably be better off with rates going before the event, because now you're getting into the weekend, which is their bread and butter so often. So I'm wondering, when we talk about how do we encourage the sponsor dollar, and it's, their interaction and their access to what they perceive to be decision makers in the room, I can't help but wonder if after the business meeting, what you've got now is you do have the decision makers in there. And by the way, I'll just throw this out there, it's the morning, everybody's sober, or mostly, and you have all these people in the room who they want to have access to. So is there a time there that you just carve out an hour with all those people who just voted and say, this is time for the sponsors to be with those voting people, because they're there to vote? And, I don't know how you shoo out the public who's there, who's kind of there to watch or whatever they're there for, I don't know. But make that a sponsor opportunity right after we finish up the business of SCAG and the voting.
Sounds good. Lucy?
Thank you. I follow up on your comment. First, I want to just say, I just think it's huge. It's huge that you've got 83% of people agreeing or strongly agreeing that SCAG is advancing the regional agenda. I mean, I know you're kind of preaching to the choir, but that's a big number here.
And this conference, to me, I always look, because I go to a million of them, but I look at this one and I go, if I have to go to 2 conferences a year, I go to Mobility 21, the largest transportation conference west of the Mississippi, and I go to this one. Because I can accomplish so many things in both of them, and that might be good idea, is to talk with Jenny Larios, maybe get some ideas, because there's no competition there and so many issues overlap, right? So, and that one, not only is there sponsorship, they've already sold out, and they're not even till what, September or something like that. So kind of take a look at the successes there. I love the idea of being able to give our sponsors what they came for. I don't know if you can do this, but maybe even on the registration form, there's a blank space that says, and if you'd like to meet with one person, who would that be? And so we might not be able to deliver on all of them, but at least you'll know. It's much better for the personal one-on-one request and ask than it might be to put folks in a room, which maybe someone's going off to Kurt Pringle, and so they're going to miss that event, that space. You know what I'm saying? But if we know, then some of us that would love to help you do this, I volunteer as part of the 60th, we could actually go, oh, I know you, Kurt, wanted to go meet with this person. I got to go introduce. So we can kind of like keep in mind how to help people succeed in those one-on-ones. And that personal attention is huge to get big sponsorship dollars. So I'm happy to jump in and help you with this. And the 60th, I really think, because we live in a world that is so fast and we're always looking at what's happening next, make sure we focus on the 60th, spend a lot of time on how the change in the region over 60 years and everything we've done and accomplished and have been successful. Remind folks where we started 60 years ago, where we are today, and why we got your back for the future. So, I mean, that should be a real big theme for the 60th celebration, is remind folks of our history, because we tend to not think about the past, right? I don't think, the only complaint that, if I had any like upgrade I would do, is I wish we could have celebrated more some of the successes of SCAG. I know we did the RTP SES, that was huge, and we got a nice video that people zoned out on, but I might have factored, the video was great, but I think I would have factored more into comments throughout the day on what a big deal this is, and we've got a lot of work to do. But that was a big success for this last one that I think we should have kind of spent more time promoting. 'Cause that was tough. That was tough to have to do all the stuff that everybody worked on, right? So, anyway.
Thank you, Lucy. Tim?
Follow up on that?
Yeah.
Good morning. I'd like to sort of build off of what Lucy just said on our narrative. The reality is I think most members of the public have no idea who SCAG is. And
Most
we
of
live
the
at a time.
cities probably don't.
Yeah, we live at a time where people often distrust government. And yet you have this body that's been around for 60 years trying to improve the quality of life, right, across counties for this region. And so I think it's so critical that we start to build, and not that we're starting from a place of absence of narrative, but that we really dedicate resources to tell that narrative and utilize the institutions that can get that out. I mean, I'm just thinking, like, for example, in Spectrum, they've done a number of stories in Pomona just about some of the work that we do. There's radio, there's social media. And I say that because I think it's important for people to know what we've contributed over this 60-year period. What are our values? What do we represent? And I think there's tremendous value in that. So I'd like to just suggest, and others have suggested it as well, is are there people who were around when it was first started? I don't know that there are, but I just think this is part of the contribution that we make to the history of this work. No, I mean it sincerely, right? I mean, it's, It's our way of showing the public that we are doing something.
And I'm just going to comment on that, Tim. The public's generally not there. It's the city, I mean, we're an organization of city come together to plan on a regional basis. Our membership and I'm critical of SCAG sometimes is, hey, we work for the local government, not for the state. I'm not there to put on their agenda, I'm putting on our agenda, what's our priorities, and sometimes, but there's not a lot of public there. I do think there's a lot of city members that come to this one event a year, and we need to tell them what they do.
And I'm not thinking of this, the convening, I'm thinking of just the broader.
Some more PR outside of SCAG.
Yeah, because
to let them know.
again, everybody who's a part of the regional council and for the most part, the committees are elected officials, right? We're elected by the public. And I have to tell you, sometimes they think we do nothing, right? They're frustrated. And we know we do so much. And the fact that you have the number of counties that come together to try to figure out regional policy issues, I think there's an opportunity or window here to tell that narrative. But certainly the cities are, it's important to get it out to even just the electeds who may not know about this. So anyways, that's all I want to say.
Jim?
So quick and short, can we follow up with those people who did respond or to whomever we initially put out those emails and ask them one quick question? What is the most important thing that they believe SCAG does? Because I think that's a starting point for so much.
And this is great conversations, Javier. Maybe we do a follow-up, you know, as your team digests and come up with some suggestions. So maybe one of our EACs, we could just quickly say, hey, here's the next plan. I was also thinking that, I know you guys have been working hard to get me scheduled to go, like all of you past presidents have done, to different regions. And if we had that schedule in advance at our, you know, our conference, we could say, hey, we're going to hit in February, we're going to, you know, here, we're going to go there. And that way that regional now becomes personal for those people in that region to just know, hey, 6 months from now we'll be visiting, you know, Orange County or whatever. So we get here, because that's, I know that you tell me that's one of the things I got to do right now is get out there. And but now that's way in advance. And I know my schedule, I need to do it way in advance anyway. But we could announce that at that time. And then remember that we have a lot of city council members that show up this once a year, and that's the only exposure we have to them. So if we could, and probably a lot of city staff that come, I don't know what the percentage is, that probably don't know that there's resources here at SCAG, because not every city has a representative on this board. And so they're represented by some other city that may not be reporting. I know Larry does a great job. He writes out a little letter even, or a little report. But I bet most people don't do that and say, hey, I'm representing you. I'm going over the 5 cities and tell you what we did this last 6 months. It probably doesn't happen. So how do we get that information to the cities that don't have a member on our monthly meetings? Luis?
And I was going to say, I know this is still way out there, and it's not just our call, but at what point do we start adding Olympic branding?
Coming soon.
Yesterday.
Comey has all this money this year because he was surprised how much we have, so obviously he's going to be a major sponsor, right?
Coming soon.
That's why I have my attorney here to keep me out of trouble.
I just want to note that for folks that are looking for how to share information of things that happen at SCAG, Javier's group put out a number of newsletters, Spotlight, and which are the ones that are at least three of them, that we can direct you to, or you can get at on our website, that allows you to have a summary of monthly activities at SCAG that you could use easily for either writing your own email or just sending those out for those who want to share stuff with respective cities.
And at 4 o'clock after each regional council meeting, the spotlight comes out. So that's your opportunity that day to send it out to the cities that you represent in your district.
Well, I was just going to say, we utilize those resources, and we actually do a monthly SCAG report. At our council meeting, we have a written report, and then we'll provide, Trish or I will provide highlights. And we feel it's really important that residents in our community know what regional things we're doing.
But is that getting to your other cities that you represent in your region too? That's what I'm saying. Do we have that network for the cities that don't have a member?
Yeah.
How many cities do you represent in 13? I don't know.
Like, 5.
5? So those other 4 that you represent, yeah. Yeah, how do we get that information to them?
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's good reminder.
And do we, as an organization, send out like updates to them monthly?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Give a quick overview of the various.
Those various things, yeah.
Yeah, we have our spotlight monthly, our highlights monthly as well. Actually, highlights is weekly. And then we have our Money Mondays every other week. So those are the 3, which,
We all look
you
at
know,
Larry.
Larry for Money Mondays. So those are our 3 major components of our communications. But we also have a lot more communications that are based on programming. We have a housing newsletter. We also have Go Human. They also have a newsletter. But if I were to direct you to those 3 major newsletters, it's Spotlight, Highlights, and Money Mondays are the most important, I would say.
Oh, Jenny, sorry.
Just 2 quick comments, just as I process everything we've talked about. I think with the sponsors, we have to make sure that we strike a balance so that it doesn't start to feel like the conference is a commercial, right? Because I feel like if it becomes too much that, then people are going to go, well, why do I even go to the session, or why do I? So anyway, one piece, like just how do you do that balance so that your sponsors feel like their sponsorship was meaningful and it's not becoming an advertisement. The other thing is regarding videos, being careful how much we use those too. I mean, because I think with some of the ways we've used them, like the beginning of the meeting instead of someone just drowning on, perfect. But I also noticed at the conference that once a video went on, people got out their phones, they started talking to the person next to them. And so I think there's that, like, how do you integrate it in, like, I think you wouldn't want to use so many videos that no matter how flashy they are, it's like, okay, it's time to go to the bathroom. I'm not being rude to a person. And so anyway, just something that I had noticed at the last conference is that people interacted differently when a person was speaking versus when there were long segments of video. So anyway.
You're down.
That's it.
We're good then. Javier, thank you. Thank you, Perla, and everybody else who does a good job. They have this whole thing on presidential priorities now, right? Is that what I'm supposed to be working on? It's all me, and I have like no notes on this, but
I'll help you out.
you're going to tee me up? Okay, good.
Well, if you want to start us off,
Well, I have
what we were
some
going to
basic
do.
stuff.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're in your slide deck or not, some of the things we talked about or not. This is where I really need some input, especially from the past presidents, to say why things were changed and whatever. But I will tell you a couple of things that I was thinking of is, one, how do we get people back into our meetings? I know it's not going to be the most popular thing for those who like to Zoom, but I think as you hear in this weekend, or this last 2 days, we have a lot more interaction when we're here than when people are Zooming in because they're doing 3 other things. So talk to Darren, talk to Comey, Sarah, how do we introduce that back to both your committees, or do we introduce it back to your committees, committee chairs? Do we say you need to be there? And know that you have certain members that are on both a policy committee and regional council, and then some that are on one or the other. And so to come out for that 2 hours each time is, it's a burden, but at the same time, you sign up for this. And that's what it used to be before COVID. And it's sad for me to see the thing emptied. I'm one of the ones that Zoom in a lot too. And I'm gonna have to drive out there. But we're not getting the discussions we used to get. And I get that back from both the members and the staff. How do we get them engaged? We just do it cold turkey and say, we're gonna start on this date. Do you want to phase it in? I'm not talking to audit committee or things like that. Those are smaller. Legislative committee, those are fine because they're off days. But that one first Thursday of the month, whatever it is, do we get people back in? Jenny, you got yours up already. Or was that last time? Input from the chairs, past presidents. Do we just do it? And we do have policy for those who want to come the day before. You know, they live 50 miles or whatever the distance is. They, you know, SCAG will still pay for the hotel and things like that. Another open up discussion is, when I first started this, we had the EAC in the morning, but for me, who doesn't like to spend the night, it was easier. I know that's changed over the last few years. So both those are on the table. David?
We touched on this yesterday, the fact that remote is here to stay. I don't think it's, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Oh, no. And I think it's going to be tough to get everyone just to immediately drive in to come in to the meetings. However, for CHD, we've talked about it, we're going to be dealing at least 2 meetings or meeting and a half or 2.5 on RENA. Something very important that everybody should weigh in. I think it's not unreasonable to say this is in person. Obviously, there's going to be exceptions. I don't know how you incentivize people other than saying, come, it's really important. Your being here, your presence makes a difference, as you just said. When we're all together, we can do more, we can have a better collaboration, discussion, and come up with better solutions or ideas for the future. But I don't know that.
If you look at the calendar, let me put it in context. We're talking, because we're like dark 3 months out of the year, right. 3 or 4 even. We're talking 9 meetings a year. We're probably the most, you know, the largest MPO in the world, talking about really in-depth issues. And so I think it's important that we get people to mentally as well as physically be present. And I just don't notice it as much on the Zoom. I find myself checking out too, because I can do something
correct.
else.
100%. I agree with you. Being there makes a big difference. On Zoom, even if you have the best intentions, a lot of times you're getting 50% of the response or interest from those involved. So I am for in person. I don't know how we get there other than mandating it, which is a little tricky.
Rocky?
Thanks. Just a thought. We learned yesterday I'm the rookie, and I prioritize the meetings a year in advance. I'm thankful for the calendar, and I travel the world, and I make my schedule based on making meetings. And I think that asking someone assigned to this body, elected to this body, that they come to the meetings is not an unreasonable ask. That being said, there are occasions where one can't make it. And so if we expect you to be in person, but there's X number of meetings that you can attend remotely based on certain things. And that's happened, you know, last year I did a city council meeting from Thailand. Just had to do it. I couldn't change the schedule to be there. But it's not like these are surprise meetings that you can't, oh my gosh, I forgot that.
And we're large enough, and maybe we should talk if you have an alternate or something like that. Do we even have alternates? No. You know, voting member, I don't know. We're large enough that we could continue on. Now, like on the council, we have 5 people and 2 are, you know, 3 on vacation. You're kind of in trouble. But we're a large enough body to have a quorum. Just the mechanics of doing a vote by roll call versus pushing a little button becomes time consuming. It takes away from our valuable discussion time and policy time, in my opinion. Jim, being the furthest one away.
I happen to really like being at the meetings. I think we do interact better in it. You know, we build on each other's thoughts. I'm wondering though, because there is the point, as David said, there's some people, they're just not gonna go back. They like their Zoom, and that is who that person is. They're comfortable with that, and I don't know. But is it possible to do, and we're trying this at RCTC because that's an expanse, and we've got people coming from Corona, and we've got people coming from Blythe. So what we're trying, and this just got kicked off, to try 3, well, actually it would be 2 satellite locations and the main locations. But at least then you have a group at the satellite location, and there's an interaction there. So that might be worth something it might be worth trying.
It's a hybrid type of thing.
Background. I said I can give some background.
Yep.
Just to echo Jan's sentiment, I'm on the Library Commission, and we could never meet quorum
because the county of Los Angeles is so big. So we do the main library once, whatever our meetings are, and then do two satellite locations where you're able to go to any of the three and participate in the meetings.
So maybe one satellite for each county? Lucy, you're still up?
So this is a little bit on leadership. I love coming in person, but I have to arrange for dog sitting. I have to arrange for my car, for et cetera, et cetera. Am I driving? Am I taking the train? And then I come for a 45-minute meeting. So I've done all of this stuff for a 45-minute meeting that really doesn't have the substance I think you would like us to be talking about.
Yeah, that's another thing on my
So
list.
it's on, if you make the meetings really interesting, I'm gonna be there and, bend over planet on Earth, but I just think it's two sides to that coin, right? You gotta make it interesting.
Let's hold off the decision then, because I have more thoughts just on how maybe to restructure some of these meetings too. I've been multiple chairs of different subcommittees, and the first thing, not to take anything away because it's in a vacuum, wasn't in there. Again, we started off yesterday, there's a list of things we have to do. And that's why we have our 3 standing committees. Those are things we get paid, and we have to produce certain information, RENA numbers, transportation plan, all the rest of the stuff. And then besides that core, I'm expecting the chairs and the vice chairs to get together with the staff to say, here's some other things that we need to talk about. So that I want the chairs and the executive teams of those committees to have more input with the staff. But it's on you as chair. If you signed up to be chair, I want you to take a leadership role in that committee. Stay focused in your realm. I don't want you going off somewhere else. But like, for example, we had a lot of, my thing is technology and futurism of governance. How we kind of put that into our planning, because we don't do anything very quickly. Everything we do takes a while. So we were talking yesterday about your quadcopter landing pad. That's going to take you probably 5 years to put in, get energy to it and all. So if you want to plan for these things, if you want to see what's coming, we got to put it in. So if you're a transportation committee and you're doing your core duties, what else can you expose to that member who has the interest being in that committee? And what is it that you can kind of integrate into and getting that information out? So that being said, how do we work together closer with staff to have an agenda that makes sense? But it takes the leadership of the chair and vice chair and to actually have that interaction with the staff, because they're planning 2, 3, 4 months in advance or even longer. So there should be, here's our annual plan, and bring it back and get it blessed, and you guys are comfortable. And it has to be a balance, because they can say, hey, this is way out of our scope, we don't have the resources to do this, or whatever, but to have that input. Then secondary at the regional council, and I don't know about you, and then maybe just me, but if I hear the same thing at EAC, then go to transportation, hear the same thing, and hear the same thing at regional council, I'm kind of tuning out by the third time I'm hearing it. Not that it's not good information, but I'd like to see the policy work done in the policy meetings and then get it out in the RC on consent. Any of those RC members can pull something off consent, but I don't need to hear the same thing twice myself, and which means what do we do, what is it that we cover in the regional council? And staff came up with some ideas of what we could do, but it's a total revamping of how we're doing. We're not just regurgitating. I would have the chairs report out. You would have like 5 minutes. This is maybe before we do the consent. Hey, this is what over in our policy committee. This is like RENA's a big issue for everybody. But if it's that big, you don't wait till it gets to RC to pull it off and redebate the thing that was done in the committee. You do it in committee. Then when you figure it out and then kick it out to RC, and we're here to bless it. And if you want to go fight it, you go in the committee.
I love it. I just want to say I totally agree with you. We've tried to do things in committee like that, and I think we need to make sure that everybody's informed about this process that you just described, where we do the working committee, and then it's going to consent at the regional council, because one of the things that we've had to deal with is, as staff, is where policy members felt like we were trying to hide something on consent, because we hadn't really fully inform folks about this process of trying to make sure that the committee work is just validated and it's on consent at regional council. And there might be some regional council members that were not in that particular committee and they would have a right to be able to pull it off and have questions answered. So I think it's a really great way of streamlining processes and conversations at the regional council, and having everybody understand that this is the process, not that we're trying to sneak something through.
But that takes a lot of communication at the RC to say, hey, this is what, so the report out would be, this is what we did today, this is what we're doing next month. You're all invited to come. You may not be a voting member, but you can come up and talk to the committee and say your jurisdiction's point of view. We should communicate that to our cities, since they're representing multiple entities as a regional RC member or as appointed on the policy committee. And then we get to the business that we have to do as a regional council. We get that done, and then what else do we do with that time? Because time is valuable for all of us. It should be worthwhile to come. You should be excited to come. You should be learning things that take back to your jurisdictions or giving us input of where we should be going. I think SCAG has such a great reputation that we can go out and do a great job of lobbying. I've always been a big proponent of, again, coming from the legislative side to the local government side is like, well, here's the rules on local government side that we follow. Well, there's a whole path to change those rules. That's the sole job of legislators, to change the rules and laws. So that aspect, what Javiera does and her team, is taking our input. Hey, we see what you want to do, but there's a better way to get there. Let's go up and make a plan to go advocate for that. And not just support thumbs up or thumb down to the legislative bills, but actually introduce legislation. Go up and educate our representatives. There's a lot more on that front that I think we could be doing as well. Just so the people that represent us in those bodies kind of understand what we're in sometimes. But thoughts? These are some of the thoughts I've had.
Sarah you have an outline for.
Well, I just thought, I think we've brought up issues of both the content that you want to see and the structure. And what would be helpful for us as staff here today is to really talk through how we marry those two things. And so I thought it might be useful and President Hagman brings up there's certain things we have to do, but then there's certain things that we can explore based off of your policy interests and direction. So if I maybe could provide a little bit of the foundation on kind of the content side and the things that we're looking at in terms of what we have to do, but also what we've heard so far from President Hagman in terms of the content that he wants to make sure that we're bringing forward. And then maybe we can weave into what's the best structure then to have that content come before all of you. And we do have some constraints in our schedule this year that I think are really important to get to help us figure out, again, how we prioritize our time together. So if that's okay with you, maybe I'll go through the quick list of, I'll just highlight in your packet, we do this every year where we kind of look at what your priorities are for the year. So we don't, need to go through them today, but you did accomplish a lot last year. So I wanted to take a moment to thank President Brown for all he has done and encourage you all to take a look at page 86 and 87, because that's where we highlight the things that this group decided they wanted to do last year and how those things were carried forward. On the next slide, we start talking through, again, some of the content priorities that we've talked through with President Hagman. And the first he had mentioned was the enhanced focus on emerging technologies, both at our policy committees, but in other activities we do with you all at the board.
Hey, can I give you an example? So several of us sit on the South Coast air quality, right? You have electric vehicles, you're going to have hydrogen fuel cell stuff coming up, and you're forced to do it. So it's not like an option. Are you planning in your cities where you're going to have a hydrogen fuel station, where you're going to have super fast chargers for diesel trucks? What role should SCAG take in that in a regional plan? Should that be done at the regional transportation committees? Should they come up plan and we absorb it? There's tons of money out there for this that will still be coming down on infrastructure money. And does anybody have a plan for it? Are we even thinking about that? Because we're doing this real time that we know it's coming, but is that getting down to the actual cities and counties that have to plan for this coming forward? That's an example.
And we're thinking, as we have those examples, we can try to get those to you through the policy committees, again, as well as the RC. And if we bring it to a policy committee, we would, of course, focus it on the subject matter. So in housing, what's the biggest innovation that's happening in that space, et cetera. Then the next thing that we highlighted and had discussed was carrying forward some of those priorities that were set last year. So the regional council had decided, and the EAC had decided to focus on goods movement, transit recovery, and clean transportation technology, again, kind of uplifting that emerging technology theme. So we would propose to carry those forward. Looking for continued leadership on promoting our innovative data and planning tools with your membership.
And can I stop you again, Sarah?
Yep.
Sorry to keep interrupting. On that one, remember we just changed from our regional transportation committees to take a certain amount of federal transportation dollars and doing their own plan to now SCAG has to do that as a regional plan. And we have to come up with the criteria to give out the awards or grants. And what that criteria is, that's their job. How do we articulate that to our transportation commissions? And how do we collect the data? How do we really tell, I'm a frustrated on the edge of a county resident for 25 years, and I could tell you that the 57 to 60 interchange, still have to get off the freeway to get back on the freeway, it's never in the priority list for LA County because it's on the edge of LA County. I could tell you right now from my Riverside that the 91 to 71 north is going through, but there's no south going through because that's in Riverside and it's not a priority for them. Is that become something that we look at? Where's our bottlenecks in our transportation system as a whole? How do we collect that data so we're making informed decisions as an agency or as a group? So how do we, the data part's very, very important. It's not just, hey, it's good for me, but it's not good for them. No, collectively as a region, how do we move people and goods around faster?
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think, we can definitely bring those forward in the TC and the RC as well, and think about the way the data helps inform the policies and strategies that you all want to move forward. The next one on this slide is just leadership on pathways to achieve federal and state goals within the context of Southern California and our unique challenges. And I would tie this one somewhat to the conversation that we had yesterday about the state setting very ambitious goals for us. And we had a conversation last night as well about, when you're setting goals, it's great to have that moonshot, but at times, we really need to be providing more perspective to the state leadership so that the goals are set so that they're ambitious and achievable. And so thinking about how we can use the time with the regional council to also bring in some of the state leadership to talk with you all as they're going through these processes, so you can give them a little bit more of your perspective on what's happening in the region and some of the constraints they should be considering as they move forward their policy agenda. So that's something else that we thought we could use the time at the regional council to do a little bit better this year. Other areas, and President Hengman also introduced this, we really do want to continue to work with the leadership on our chairs and vice chairs of our policy committees to reflect in the agendas not only the priorities that we talk about here today, but other items that might be on your list. We do meet monthly. We have staff leads for each of our committees who will review the agenda outlook with you and the individual agendas, so that if you have an item you want to put forward in the future, you can talk through in your outlook where that might be able to plug in. And we do have some draft outlooks in your packet just to know where the starting point is, and then for you to think through other items you might want to add. Number 6, we already got to as well. This is, raising to all of your attention the major change and shift that's happened in the agency, where the regional council is approving the federal project selection for transportation projects. And so we approved one program last year, but we have another $1 billion program that gets approved this year. And so I'm wanting to make sure we're working with you to provide transparency and clarity to the public in that process. The next one that we mentioned is, the great news that we discussed yesterday is that we are going to have the REAP $2, and we're going to be moving forward with implementing and delivering those projects. So making sure we're accountable to all of you in reporting out how we're doing and making progress on those projects, and working with you to highlight those more broadly in the region, and the state, the federal level, so that we can get more resources. And then the final priority that we had discussed was to refine and further think about SCAG's role in the 2028 Summer Olympics and ways we can use both our policy bodies, et cetera, to really get the cities excited and engaged in doing their parts to make that a successful game.
Sarah, do you see that being a subset of a particular committee or a standing new committee, or what do you think?
So we thought we needed a little bit more time with you all to discuss how that was going to play out. I think we're going to learn a lot this summer after the games in Paris. And I think there'll be a lot more kind of coalescing among the other regional and local partners that are working in this space as we get into the.
Well, it's same thing for kind of like GREEP 2.0. Some jurisdictions has a big part of that, and it's important to SCAG that we produce for that and have a result. Other jurisdictions don't need anything to do it. So do you take a policy committee and spend a lot of time on it, or you just give reports? I'm a big believer of subcommittees. We do this all the time in the county too. Hey, homeless is the item of the year, so we have a subcommittee on homeless. We have a subcommittee on tourism. And it doesn't take the full board, but we work with staff very closely, and then we bring it to the board for presentation. So you can have specialties. So this another idea is, do we want subsets of affected body of agencies? And it could not even, bring other staff expertise. REAP is a one-time grant. Olympics is a one-time event. So we don't need standing, but do you, I don't know how legally we do that with Brown Act and all that kind of stuff, but do you want to have subcommittees on that, or do you want a committee to just take it and put it part of their agenda?
Yeah, we could, I mean, it's really at your discretion as president. We could make a subcommittee of one of the committees, like transportation, or you could also set up a subcommittee on the Olympics that's a little more, it's broader, so you try to have representation across the region. But the point, though, is we really don't have a clear perspective on what the assignment will be until we have some more information about what our role could be, how we could help with the Olympics. There's just a lot still happening. We just had the very first regional convening of on the Olympics like 3 weeks ago at Metro. We just
It's just a transportation, yeah.
Yeah, and so there are a number of moving parts, and we feel like we will be able to have enough information to then inform how we move forward at the regional level to really get policy conversation going on the Olympics.
Can I ask a question quickly? I guess the question is, what are we trying to achieve having SCAG be involved or be aware of Olympics? I mean, you mentioned transportation, but I think clearly identifying the objective or the purpose will help lead us, whether it's going to be an ad hoc, whether it's going to be a subcommittee of another committee, I don't know, or is it the coalition of the willing, like if you just want to join, I don't know. So.
Well, I think if LA does reach out and says, we need some help planning, that's what we do. We're a planning organization. And it does hit each one of our committees. We have a housing component. We got to house all these people. We have an energy component because we got to figure out, I'm sure I'll probably introduce some, new shuttles or something like that to try to keep the knocks down.
Most of the issue is going to be transportation.
Yeah.
And the Olympic, the focus right now is they're trying to identify venues and they're taking care of, we would have no role in dealing with officials and athletes and all of those people. But we feel like we're working already on the TDM for the region on freight. While the games are going on, the business of business still has to happen in this region. People still have to be able to do what they normally do. And so there will be transportation issues that are regional, but affected by the game. So that's the kind of thing that we're trying to spend some time thinking and scoping, because that's where our role is. But the Olympic Committee and the games people, they're working already on how people are going to move. They have obviously they've identified where the games village is going to be, so they know where the athletes are, they know where the events are going to be, and they will figure out how to get those people through. While they're doing that, though, what's the impact on the rest of the 19 million people? I think that's where our role is to make sure that we can inform and manage the system while the Olympics are going on.
Larry?
Thank you. I know at Metrolink, we're busily planning on what we need to support the Olympics, and what we need is money and the commitment out of the Olympic people that that money will be forthcoming. We know what service we can provide with our existing system, and we know what we need to provide if we truly want to provide the headway on the trains and service all of the venues that we expect to go. But we haven't been able, everyone says, don't talk to us now. After the Paris Olympics, then we'll talk about what we need and where the money's coming from. We've been lobbying also the state and the federal government for those resources. But it's an Olympics that will not have any cars going to any of the venues. You have to get there by transit some way, and I know LA Metro, they need 3,000 more buses. We're talking, at Metrolink, we're talking to Metro in Chicago to be able to borrow some of their assets here to fill the gap. And what we need is a commitment out of the LA 28 committee that those funds will be provided.
Javier was just saying, you seem more informed than the people from the Olympics.
Well, that's part of the problem. We've had difficulty even having meetings with LA 28, and we finally have got one scheduled, so we'll proceed from there.
They're well organized, way ahead of topic of the game here. Sarah,
Yes.
calendar.
Well, so what we're hoping for is, again, thinking about how the policy gets brought forward into our schedule, and particularly on this issue of the Olympics, is, maybe in September, if we can organize it, have LA 28 and others come and talk about what is planned for the Summer Olympics, particularly on the transportation side in those areas that we're focused on.
You're talking September 26th, right? Because they're not going to have the information.
We're looking for ambitious and achievable. I think we can do it. We're going to try to see if we can do that, because I think, again, figuring out what our role, I think we need to first have an understanding of the starting point and what the baseline is, right? We can at minimum share with you all and the larger regional council the discussions that we've had at SCAG and some of the resources that we have, some of the planning work. As Kome mentioned, we're planning to think about this as part of our freight planning that we're doing. We'll think of as part of our we have transportation demand management programs that we work on with all of the cities. So we can at least bring forward to you kind of what some of the staff thoughts are on our role in this work, and hopefully we'll be able to get others from the region to participate and talk about the overall structure for planning for the games. So that's, at this point, what we were hoping we might be able to accomplish in September of 2024. And then in terms of the rest of the schedule and how we might bring forward the various ideas, to Lucy's point, we are thinking about a richer policy content at the regional council meetings. And so the months may not quite line up here. We're going to talk about that a little bit later as well, but I'll just bring up kind of how we're thinking about bringing forward the various topics. So then potentially in October, we could have a session that relates to transit recovery and technology. So every time we bring forward one of the presidential priorities in a subject area, we want to link it to technology. In November, we were thinking we could bring in someone from HCD to talk about the RENA report that we discussed yesterday and get some of their perspectives on why recommendations are the way they are, and maybe get some feedback from our board about how we see those things applying in our region. The business work is on the right here. I should have explained in the beginning, but this is structured where we have our discussion items, and then there's the business that the regional council will need to take care of. And many of the business items will have been discussed in the policy committees before they get to the RC, so that we can move through those and you don't have to have the repeat conversations. So then other topics and how we see those moving forward, potentially in January, then we would have a conversation, hopefully, see if the Air Resources Board would come talk with us. Again, that was another big policy issue that we talked about yesterday, and many changes happening in the space around climate policy. And target setting for SB 375, so seeing if we can get someone to come speak to the regional council on those issues. In February, thinking about having a panel on clean transportation technology. In March, again, trying to get some of our state agency leadership to come talk with us about their perspectives on transportation finance. Annie mentioned yesterday, their work on a needs assessment. That report should be forthcoming in the next couple of months, so they could come in and talk to us about where they landed and how that might relate to the work that we're doing in the region on transportation finance. And then finally, in April, we plugged in a session on goods movement and technology, and this would be a good opportunity for the whole regional council to see our progress on the sustainable freight plan, as well as bring in some outside speakers to talk to that issue.
But the only way we could do something like this is, and I was trying to think of the regional council meeting, we would take care of the business ahead of time, and those who could stay for a longer discussion and really dig into policy like these things would stay and dig into policy, because it's not really action items, they're more information, more regional planning. It gives us feedback to staff, it lets us have that dialogue with our state representatives and different organizations that kind of give us rules. But we would do our business side and the policies committees, we would announce that, hey, this month we're going to be doing, next month doing arena numbers. If you want to come participate, go to that committee. And we're not going to have the whole other discussion again in RC. We're just going to get a recommendation and hopefully put it on the consent. Now, obviously, if you're RC and you're not on a sub-meeting, you can still pull it. We can discuss it. But we take care of business at the beginning, so that can be fairly quick, depending on how much discussion and how many report outs we have and those type of things. Then we dig into each month a different policy, really deeper dive into it. But you're not hearing that in the middle of the RC meeting, then waiting to the end to vote out some things you need to vote out. So that's the kind of the thought I had on that. Lucy, would you be worth getting a dog sitter for that?
I would justify.
Well, we invite your dog over.
I would justify dog boarding to come to that schedule.
We'll put the little service vest on them and bring them out, okay?
Yes.
Thoughts?
So maybe we can go to the next one and then get thoughts on it, because I think it starts to get complicated when you actually lay this ambitious schedule or policy discussions into the schedule too. And I think you heard Kurt open the meeting up talking about some of these issues this morning. A lot that we want to get done, certainly at the regional council meetings. The excitement I think staff has about hoping to get more people in the office, and how do you want to present that. In the EAC RC meeting days, for those of you that have been around a long time, you might recall that we used to do the EAC meeting at 9 a.m. in the morning, and then we would have policy committees, and then we would have Larry remembers 8, because there was an 8 a.m., there was an executive committee and an administrative committee that went 8, 9, 10. But doing that all in one day, again, if we're going to be in person, that allows people just to free up that one day, the first Thursday of the month, to be there. And as Lucy said, it wouldn't be coming for one 45-minute meeting and then be coming for 3 meetings in one day, and have more value in that. But as we look, and maybe we can talk about that, maybe let's just go to the next slide though. And I think it kind of highlights the challenges that we have this year in terms of where that first Thursday of the month lines up. In August, we've already canceled the policy committee meetings. There's a EAC meeting that's scheduled, I think, the last day of July right now, but likely not needed a August RC meeting. So I think we need to move forward and make that official. The September day around the Olympics probably still works. October is Rosh Hashanah at the first Thursday of the month, so we would recommend canceling that meeting. It's very, very hard to move the SCAG meetings. We've tried many times over the years. If you go to the second Thursday, there's so many conflicts to ensuring that you get a quorum and you're not competing with other people's events. It's just very, very hard. So the recommendation would be to then cancel the October meeting, have the November meeting in January. The meeting date is January 2nd. Again, we're very concerned about being able to get people, into a meeting, into downtown on that date, and so the recommendation is to cancel January. That leaves us with December, where we're normally dark, to have the Economic Summit. Perhaps we shift that program a little bit this year, not have the Economic Summit as we've traditionally had it, instead have one of the priority policy discussions at the regional council be an update on the region's economy. We can still produce the same regional reports that we've done, share them, but not have so much of the programming, and still have time for the business of the organization.
And I told Darren on the December meeting, I wanted to have an update by Javier and our LEDS team. There may be a completely different administration, not just presidential, but Senate, Congress, a whole bunch of different priorities. How does that affect us? Does it affect us? Those type of things. It may be a completely change of direction. So we could do that, an economic brief update and legislative update, maybe in December as our meat and potatoes in the RC.
And I think that's one of the options. Is the president was talking about how to encourage people to come back to the office and not have the virtual ability to come to the regional council meetings. That I think is worthy of some discussion, is rather than saying we're not going to do that ever again, is look at the calendar and say, okay, we really have 3 meetings this year. Do we start it for those 3 meetings and say regional council meeting is going to be in person for September, November, December, with the thought that it could be reassessed as to how that moves forward? Because I do think there'll be some energy when people do start coming back, and I think they'll like that. If the content is good, again, we can match up the day so it's one productive day. The question about the policy committees, I think, is something, most of those people are only coming in for an hour and a half meeting. Maybe we still keep those hybrid in this test zone so we don't lose too many people that aren't as fully engrossed in all the meetings of the day. So this is just a translation of what Sarah was presenting earlier into some constraints that we have on the calendar this year and how you might want to move forward with them.
So what Darren's really saying, he's only giving me 6 meetings as president, so I'm screwed. Exactly. Cut back Kurt's time. There we go. Okay, but laid it all out. Thoughts? Dave?
I have a number of thoughts going back to your initial comments, so I hope that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. First, your idea of the committees doing the legwork, having everything there, the regional council putting things on consent with explanations, whether it be by the chairs or leadership or Comey, I think is a great idea. I think there will be a little pushback from some individuals who may not, for whatever reason, be on a committee, but may want to come to regional council, but they can pull the items and discuss them as well, and the public can comment. So I think that's a great idea to streamline some time.
And I would hope I could have my chairs, and if you're not there, your vice chairs report out in your committees.
Right.
I think it's better.
Sure.
We're the elected board members to be here. I think it should be as much of us doing that work as we're supposed to do.
Great. And the other idea of us as, this is my first time here as chair of a committee, us working independently or in addition to what we are having here, which is very full schedule already. We've already been talking about Vice Chair and I and Elizabeth about potentially coming forward with a potential workshop of sorts for our committee, because we have a lot of ideas that have come up in meetings we don't have time to deal with. We don't have staff. They may not be exactly what our task is or what we're to do, but there may be some things that do fit. I know Supervisor Plancarte and our city have done a lot of work on ADUs, some really good ideas that have come up throughout our committee and might be a great idea to discuss that might fit for the region. So there are a lot of things. And CHD, while there isn't housing apparently, but we're ready for the Olympics 28. We're ready to jump on that as well. One question, I think you already covered it, Darren, was the Economic Summit. Will this lead to the end of that, or will it be a one-year stoppage?
Larry's whispering, absolutely
I saw him
not.
say-
No. I do think it gives us an opportunity to rethink it a little bit too. We do have a vacancy in our senior economy. I mean, there's some other factors at play. But I do think absolutely not. You know, the Economic Summit was started under Larry's presidency a little over 10 years ago. And Kurt alluded to it earlier too. It came from a meeting of a group it was called the Four Corners, where you had representatives that are all at the edge of their counties not getting the resources, and that group of economists came in to talk about the impacts that has. And that grew into SCAG's Economic Summit. We think there's a lot of value there because no one else really brings this regional voice to the economy. But how do we, connect it better to SCAG's work in the future? So absolutely not. We wouldn't think about pausing that.
It's a wonderful event.
And I'm going to say, you don't have to have one together. I'm saying we should keep our meetings, because we have a certain amount of business to do on the first Thursday each month. You as committee chair and us as a board can say, hey, we're going to add another date this month to go look at, I'm going to do a field trip and go look at, housing pods or manufacturing or whatever the case may be. We did that on emerging technologies. Half the time we met, when we first started, there's a lot more enthusiasm, and we would do field trips all the time. We saw some great things, but it wasn't on a Thursday, and it wasn't when we're doing our business.
Right.
Just like you do in your local jobs and your councils, is you have your primary meeting days to do your council business, but you're there a lot more different places, doing a lot more things, getting information to bring back. So I would encourage you to have fun as chairs and vice chairs and set up a schedule. You have 6 meetings this year until Cindy takes over, for the next 12 months, which is the shortest little term I have here in anything. But you don't have to stick those 6 days to get all your business done.
Right.
That's how I want to empower you to work with your staffs. If you have an ambitious schedule, you may want to have more than 1 meeting a month because you need to. RENA is going to take a lot if you start doing it. Yeah, Sarah's all ready for jumping in on that. But you only have 1 meeting to get business done and vote. But if you need to go out and figure out other things, go do it.
Right, and we are, and I trust staff, and we'll work with staff and vice chair. Oh, there he is, getting coffee. And on those issues. Also, even the Supreme Court decision on the homelessness encampments.
Yeah, it's huge.
Certainly is going to have an effect on all of us, but maybe something. So that's it. Thanks very much. I do support what your concept is as well, very much.
So is everyone okay for us to go back to in-person? If we notified people today, and let me ask you this. Darren wants to do a hybrid on the policy, the policy.
Hybrid on policy committees.
And then in-person RC. Now, for those who are on both, you're probably going to be there. So we'll get at least half of you showing up in person on the policy day, RC day, because you're going to show up for that one anyway. For those who are just on the one, it gives them the ability to do it. So we could try it out for the 3 months left in this year.
Well, all regional council members are on policy committees.
Mm-hmm.
But not all policy committee members are on regional council.
Yeah. So you like that Darren's hybrid? So we could do the hybrid on the policy, but in person on regional council, starting in September.
Yes. How many meetings?
We had 3 this year and 3 next year, so.
September and
Yes.
November.
December.
And then what, tell,
Then February, March.
early, what time, what?
9 a.m. We're thinking 9 a.m. executive committee, 10
Darren says he's
a.m.
going to have breakfast there, though.
We're gonna have
So
breakfast.
Get there at 8 o'clock, you can eat first, just like we do here.
And hotels are available if you're, I think it's 55, Cindy, what's the? 75 miles, I guess it's 1 mile, okay.
75 miles?
That seems far, but, yeah, we might be. Anyways, we can look at that exact mileage, and then 10 a.m.
What is
policy
it?
committees to noon, and then. I thought
50.
I thought it was.
I believe it's 50 miles, but we'll double check right now and confirm.
We could probably change that.
But the travel policy is 50, right, Cindy?
44.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So
We can clean that up.
that's Ruben's fault.
So 2 of the,
I'll fix it.
just for clarity, 2 of the 3 will be in person, because EAC's in person also then?
Correct.
And
Yeah.
regional council in person?
Yeah, so if you're on all 3, you're going to be there all day.
Right.
Yeah, it's those members that
Yeah.
are on RC. that
12,
are on
15
policy.
regional council meeting is, or 12, something.
I could do that, and then if there's meetings in between, we hybrid, potentially.
On the policy committee meeting? I'll be there. Yeah, could, if you were there, you'd participate in the room, and then other people would zoom in. Right, yeah, absolutely.
Different day,
Jenny?
different day was
So-
the plan.
So just to clarify, so we're saying that we only need 25 minutes for EAC? Is that what we're,
8
I'm
to
sorry.
9. It's a
9 to 10 EAC.
aren't our policy meetings at 9:30?
And then we would move the policy committees from 10 to noon. And then have regional council from 12:15 to 2, which is what we used to do years ago. So there's not any breaks in there. That does make it
I
a
think our staff said
active
that's
day.
too much. I'm gonna be a voice for our staff. That might be too much. Back to back.
Yeah.
It's-
Are there different staff members involved?
There's different staff members, the way we used to do it. I feel bad for the staff who have to babysit us the night before from EAC, take you out to dinner and do that stuff. I want to get them home too.
It's not babysitting.
It's babysitting.
We enjoy it.
There's adult beverage involved.
So your concept of having some policy discussions after the regional council becomes a little more of a discussion, I think, if you're starting at 9, going straight through to 2.
9 to 10, 10 to 12, we have our lunch break. We have a working lunch. We do our RC, 12 to 2 for RC.
9
So 9 to 2.
Right, but then you talked about having policy.
No, the policy, I'm saying regional council should be a report out consent. It should take the first half hour maybe. The 12:15 to 12:45, and then from like 1 to 2 would be whatever the subject flavor of the month is.
And no board dinner, right?
No.
So that frees up some staff.
No board dinner. I'm just kidding.
Jenny?
So can I ask why it was changed? Like, if we used to do it,
COVID,
why did we, that was the only reason why we changed it?
yeah.
The timing of it, yeah, so when all of a sudden you were on a Zoom from 9 to 3, people found that exhausting. Whereas in person, they were used to the social interaction part of it, so we moved the EAC meeting to the day before. And then to free up some time to move the policy committees earlier, so it wasn't, so there was more space in there.
Wendy?
So I envision that 2 o'clock is gonna likely go longer, just based on what we're trying to do. So for those of us that wanna try to take public transportation, what is the train schedule for us in the afternoon?
I have no clue.
We'll
figure that out.
figure that out.
But that's why,
It's not set, if I remember correctly.
yeah.
Well, it's still 2 o'clock.
It's still 2 o'clock
So we'll
regardless.
still go to 2 o'clock.
I don't plan to keep it there until 3.
But I think we're gonna go late.
I'm hoping not. I hope we spend an hour on something and really get our minds working. That'd be the goal, is still get us out by 2.
I know the San Bernardino line is 2:38 or 3:38, so, or 4:38. But in October, we'll have a new schedule coming out, which will be a lot better.
Can we just
I
try?
love that news.
Yeah.
Can we just try to make the policy committees in at 11:45, just to give everybody a breathing room? Just to try. I'm not saying that they have to.
11:40, get it done by 11:45?
Yeah, so it's
That's up to you chairs.
That's the chairs.
That's
Yeah,
it.
but just so people know in their brain that the meeting's over at 11:45, and give everybody a 15-minute breather between the.
Yeah. And we're still going to do hybrid on legislative, hybrid. We're still going to do the Zoom on that, audit committee, whatever, scholarship, all that kind of stuff. We're not going to do that, so.
Chair, could I move the item?
Well, there's not many move.
I know that, but I'm
But
just
yeah.
saying, can we?
You guys are good?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll get some pushback, but I want to try it. Art, sorry, Art.
Just, Mr. President, just give everybody the mindset that the meeting's over at 11:45 instead of dragging to 12. It's just more of a.
We're
gonna go the night before. Party.
You get, Art,
Just to
please.
clear,
I would say no changes to LCMs.
No, I don't see a positive.
Or-
8:30.
I just remember one thing from back in history when we had all the meetings the same day, was many times the RC members would sit in the hallway for a half an hour waiting for the other meetings to get over, because they had lengthy discussions or a closed session for the EAC, and RC members got real unhappy about that. So you're gonna have to really control the time if you wanna have them all the same day.
We're mindful of that.
Yep.
good point. Just, you do need an action to change your RC agenda that's
Oh,
adopted.
so we got a motion.
But we'll write it up and we'll bring it back at your next EAC meeting, and so.
Well, are we gonna have an EAC in August?
We need one, yes, I think.
So we'll have an EAC hybrid in August. We need to definitely start notifying our RC members
Right.
now for September, November, December, and get that out, so they know to start planning accordingly.
Well, and just.
I've only had one set of coffee so far, okay? Just put me on 3, then.
Mr. President, just a disclaimer there. On that communication to the members, let them know that it's still pending final approval by the EAC. It's a proposal at this point, so that,
In August, we'll vote on it.
The president has the authority.
oh,
Yeah, it's really not.
there you go. Then
It
I,
actually says in policy.
I have a gavel, Ruben, and I'm not afraid to use it.
right, I will just shut up. Thank you.
All concerns, please move to our president.
Yeah, I'm thick-skinned. But do you like the style change, though? Do you like to take care of the business in the legislative meetings and then have something else?
I think they do.
I like that.
Yeah.
And we have council.
It's a lot more responsibility for our chairs and vice chairs. So you gotta really do your job.
6 meetings, though, right?
Yes, 6.
No.
No.
Or
Absolutely.
you can travel the night before.
Having
And,
EAC on the same day as RC.
and I'll still be available for lunch.
Dinner.
You
For
do.
dinner, I mean. And
Yeah.
lunch too.
Yeah.
And breakfast.
And continental breakfast in the morning.
90% of people don't show up.
Any public comments on this? No, Larry.
And that means the chairs and vice chairs need to take more responsibility for their agendas and make sure that you have enough time to address all of the things on the agenda rather than piling up the agenda with a lot of stuff that staff may want to put on there, but you as the chair or vice chair need to push back and make sure it's an agenda that you can accomplish in the hours that are made available to you.
It's a perfect transition to Sarah's.
That is. Thank
Well,
you for the setup.
and before you get in, Sarah, what I'm hoping, it's not like you do policy and then report out RC. We're hoping to have whatever discussion you had on last month on consent for the next month, right, Sarah, hopefully? So it's not like a hot topic that day, it was a hot topic last month that we report out on. And so the format in RC would be report out from each chair, like 3 to 5 minutes. Executive director report out, consent agenda, and then get into our meat and potatoes of policy.
A quick thing, and Larry touched on some of this too. I mean, we know that the majority of people in the meetings have not read their packets, right? We're all fully aware of that. And you know what, every time they say, will you send us that
PowerPoint.
That PowerPoint deck, and it's like, well, you got it right here, you know, so we
I'm
know
not
they're
afraid to
not.
point it out to them.
Well, we know that they're not reading it, so there does become, somehow we have to emphasize how important it is. And I want to remind everybody that one of the issues that we had that became a mess was the green print. Because it was in consent, everybody flew past it, there was no discussion. So these are the kind of things that can occur if we don't have complete discussions. And we really, I don't know how you emphasize that. I don't know how you say, you know, everybody who's been receiving your packet, you got to
I think
read
you
it.
have to highlight it, and that would be in my responsibility and Comey's responsibility and the committee chairs. Just like last month, you remember, we went through and we awarded this money, but Comey was kind of like, this is a big change for the last 40 years, but didn't sink in. So I drove it back home again. This is a big deal change. This really shifts from the regional transportation commissions to SCAG to look at this bigger. It is a big policy change, just like this couple Supreme Court rulings. These are big changes. Now, what does that mean? But it's our job to really point them out. And that's why I don't want to do everything in one day. You got to have the policy the month before. Hopefully have some kind of consensus. And knowing what the discussion was on RENA for the month before, using that example, and it was heated, then that's our job to bring it up and know that, okay, in our seat, it's going to be heated here again.
And there's going to be some spoon feeding involved here.
But Art took care of all the hard stuff last year, and this year I only got 6 meetings, so Cindy's got to worry about that the following year.
Last year was a big year for us, and actually the year before as well, because we had a whole lot of actions, because we had a lot of new funding, so we approved many sets of guidelines and approvals of projects, and we also had Connect SoCal going on. So this upcoming year is a bit different in that, we have 4 more years before we put the RTP together again, and we do not have as many action items, policy action items. So this is actually a good year for us to test things out, and I think, we can be flexible. So of course, should there be a policy issue that, is contentious, a lot of discussion in the policy committee, and if you all then decide you want to bring that back to regional council, we can move things around and make sure there's the opportunity for that fuller discussion. So again, we can put our game plan in place and then be nimble to adjust as we go.
Okay.
Chair, I appreciate the additional responsibility as the Transportation Committee Chair. I will say that I don't perhaps have the same institutional knowledge as some do. I'm thinking there's several members here on the Transportation Committee. If there's something that I'm missing, please let me know. I'm open. I'm happy to hear your suggestions. I know I meet on a monthly basis with David and Annie and Sarah and whoever is needed for that particular agenda. But I'm happy to learn from you if you have ideas or thoughts. If something may not be working as we would like it to work. So I just wanted to say that, because I know Art, I think you're on Transportation Committee. I know Jan is. I know Larry is as well. So, yeah, and Kurt.
Great. Now what, Darren? What else am I missing, Sarah?
So we can go through these. I'll just point out in your packet, and this is for the chairs and vice chairs. We did put an outlook in the packet for the Transportation Committee, for CEHD, and for
Sarah,
EEC.
Just to be clear, Larry did talk about this. You and staff meet with the chairs every month to set up the agenda for meetings every month, and you've done this the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And so this is an outlook that begins to revisit that process on what we have in terms of the syllabus for each committee for the next year. So I just want to make sure that this is in context. We're not starting something brand new. This is just re-emphasizing what we've done before and maybe getting to where we do it a little better. Okay.
Exactly. And the other thing I think is important to share is that we do include these outlooks in the agenda packets every month for the committees. So if you have committee members who also want to give you ideas on their priorities, they have the opportunity to see what's coming over the next couple months and reach out to the chairs and staff as well. And so there's more transparency just in terms of where we're headed. So I don't think I need to go through them all then today, but they're generally organized into 3 different kind of categories. One is highlighting the issues that the major policy issues related to Connect SoCal. The second is the oversight that each committee has for our local resource programs and the grants that we would be reporting back on. And the third is a category around regional leadership, which can be any set of issues we want to bring forward. Maybe if there's a new state or federal program that relates to your committee, this would be the place that we would highlight those things. So again, there's an outlook for each of the committees. The one thing I will highlight as well that's common across the committees is we were planning for a joint policy committee meeting in February. We've done this now for the last 3 years, I think. And given the interests of the president, we thought we would make that around technologies and emerging technology. So that's currently what we have lined up in terms of the policy committees. The other thing, just to note on the way this is structured, again, to reinforce the issues around the emerging technologies, we did highlight particular items that staff is already thinking about in terms of emerging technology items that could go to each of the committees. So here in housing, one of the issues that we've thought about bringing forward is some more discussion on factory-built housing, as that's an innovation in that field. So are there any thoughts or comments on the policy committees? If not, we'll look forward to setting up those briefings, which each of the chairs and vice chairs to talking about the year ahead. And then, as Kome said, we will do that on a monthly cadence to keep the work in line with your priorities. Questions?
Is March set yet? I keep writing notes about that one. I know it's a great opportunity, so just want to get that as soon as I can in the calendar.
No, we don't have specific dates yet, so.
Are we?
But we can tell you, it's going to be an exciting year, I think, both in Sacramento, DC, there's going to be changes, and I think the opportunity for us to tell our story and have new friends that or old friends that reconnecting with. In the federal level, obviously, I think, the President alluded to it, there could be some changes, but substantively, the reauthorization bill, which, funds transportation, is due up in about less than 2 years. So there'll be a lot of activity as to how we see that policy and that funding moving forward. So yeah, a lot of exciting opportunities in Sacramento, DC, certainly, as we get into 2025.
Yeah, and this was our final. We were showing that there's the policy committees that you're involved with, but then there's other ways to engage. And so this final slide Javier was going to go through, which is, again, other ways in which we would be engaging the elected officials over the course of the next year.
No, noted, not March Madness. But I did want to point out, I was talking to my team, and we have, in the state assembly, we have 24 seats up, and that could potentially be new members or people that we know, as well as 11 in the Senate. And that is pretty significant for the legislature. And as we learn in our REAP process, we're going to need to do a level of education about what SCAG is, and that starts up again, and that reintroduction, as a lot of our friends are leaving the legislature and new friends are coming along. So just wanted to point that out because it is a significant number of new folks that we're going to need to re-engage and gather support for our policy areas. And as I put here, we have our Sacramento Summit, usually in March, our congressional reception, hopefully less of logistical issues this time around. And then we also have an opportunity to go across the region. I love the idea earlier of using our mobile workshops as launching pads for promoting our GA and maybe engaging in a more meaningful way in those opportunities, and having a lookout. Schedules are always different with a board of our size, but we'll try our best to at least dedicate some months to the different geographic areas. I know that there's a lot of interest in SpaceX and Lithium Valley, the SoCal Gas Hydrogen House in Downey, and a lot of maybe housing projects and programs across the region. So we look forward to working with all of you, and if you have any ideas of places and things that we need to see and how we integrate that into SCAG work, that would be really helpful to my team. So yeah, I think the last bullet here is SCAG projects in the field. We've received a lot of funding to to do maybe some active transportation work in the region. I just received an email from DOT. They're very interested in coming down for ribbon cuttings. So this is another opportunity for our members to engage and also showcase some of the great work that we're doing regional and bring our federal partners down. And that's unique due to the bipartisan infrastructure law that gave us some funding to do some of that work. So we're looking forward to finalizing those pilot projects in the fall, and there'll be more to come on that. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Sarah?
No, that's great. We look forward to seeing you all out in the field. It is really nice when we can go. We talk about really high-level concepts here a lot of the time at SCAG, and so when you can go to a community and see how that concept is being applied in the local context, I think it's very powerful, and you all seeing our work, I think helps you in supporting us to be better champions for what we do here at SCAG as well. So we look forward to that engagement.
There's two benefits for that. One, you get the SCAG brand out, you get your own brand, but invite your state and federal representatives. Anytime they give you money, make sure you give them the love, because they'll give you more money later. Which is great. So, and we got to start kissing up to Jose over here. Jose.
On that note, Mr. President, maybe on the side of opportunities, what if, and I'm just asking, Rules already sent us, well, some of us, an email about dates that we had to be there in November. So I wonder if there's like a Southern California delegation that we could have something with SCAG. Very merry with our president, or maybe some of our exec team. Just have maybe either luncheon or breakfast. Kind of meet SCAG 101, and then just host this very intimate, small, with all the Southern California new members.
Yep.
And I went to an ADEMS thing, and I already saw like 30 of us that were invited to that. A good half of us are going to make it, obviously, or knock on wood. But I think that might be a good opportunity to do something before we get busy, as an introduction to SCAG, and I would love to co-host that.
Love it.
You had me at hello on that one.
Any
Well, now that
other?
my president took my, our dinner, so I have to figure out other.
I know. You want a free meal. He's already working the free meal circuit. I warned you about the freshman 15, okay? Yes. Anybody, thank you all for putting this great packet. Thank you for investing your time the last 2 days into shaping SCAG's next 6 meetings. And yeah, I think it should be. Yes. No, we appreciate all your time and input, and Sarah, your team as well as everyone else putting this together. Thank you for doing that. We do want to take a picture, I guess. So where do you want that, Darren?
I don't know, we need a group picture somewhere right now there.
We have flags up there, but got to turn out the screen if we did.
Should we do
wrap up
In front, yeah.
Do you want me to do the wrap up or not?
Yeah, oh, sorry.
No wrap up?
Comey, please, wrap up. Sorry, I missed that. I didn't let him talk at all. So that's communication a year to come, Comey, sorry.
That's all right. I don't need to, but sometimes it helps to just revisit the things that we've talked about. I think I would echo your sentiments, Mr. President, about being appreciative of the time that we spent the last 2 days. It really helps us at staff to have these conversations with you and get into more depth about what we do. Yesterday we talked about SCAG 101, and my takeaway from that is really the budget outlook. Given that we are at the high water mark on our budget, and we've been thinking about where we're going to land. Hopefully, a soft landing with stable staffing out in the future. The next 2 years will be something to watch, and you'll be seeing budget actions come to you as we recede from the high water mark that we have. We took away from yesterday's board discussion on the employment classification for board members that we're going to stay the course and continue to be 1099. That really helps because otherwise we'll have 200 new employees, which will be one board member per staff person. And these will be employees we can't hire or fire. So that makes it really difficult to hire you all as employees. So that's a good takeaway, and I think we're very comfortable in being able to defend that position. And it brings clarity to the issue we've been dealing with for the last 6 to 9 months. Policy briefing, we talked about 3 items, transportation finance, and really the first one on finance is about leadership that SCAG has expressed for a long time, for more than a decade now, on what we know is the reality of funding for transportation and some policy issues that are associated with that. We'll continue to stress that leadership position, and you'll see in the business items that we bring before you, and maybe even some of the discussion items that will be shaped by the conversation we hope to have on transportation financing and also the policy issues around congestion pricing to better manage the assets that we have. We talked about housing. Housing is a new program for us as a full program. At SCAG, we've sort of dabbled in housing every 8 years with RENA, but now we are in a position where we're actually doing housing at SCAG, and it's critical. And really, the issue is how we continue to sustain the work we do in housing, where it benefits our member agencies, and what we need to do to keep a stable staffing on housing, a stable programming on housing. And so that would also be part of what you will be considering. The third item we talked about yesterday was the SCS 375 revamp. We've gone to beyond maturity on SB 375 to where it's probably a little bit irrelevant as currently scoped, and we want to exercise some leadership there at SCAG. And you saw on what Sarah put on the agenda for January, the potential that we will have a conversation with the state on 375 and how we move forward on that. Javiera presented a great update on the GA, and I really appreciated the conversation today on how we might reshape or make better the GA. We had a really great GA this year. We want to make it better. And knowing that next year it's going to be our 60th, we'll come back with proposals on how that might be scheduled to assure that we create more opportunity for interaction, both sub-regional interaction, but also interaction between key participants and the sponsors to make it more worthwhile for them. And the last discussion we just had was on presidential priorities and reshaping a meeting date, the RC and policy committee meeting dates and what the outlooks are. I walk away with, hopefully Sarah's gotten some marching orders from that too, on how we will schedule our time with the committee chairs and schedule the programming for each committee for the next year. We basically have a sense of what the program needs are. We'll hopefully interlace that with the interest that the committee chairs might want to bring to attention of those committees, and resetting the regional council meetings to have the policy work done first, and or the business work done first, and then the policy discussion after, and still be able to stay within the 12:15, 2 o'clock band, I think will also be what we look for. It looks like only 6 more meetings for you, but I think it's going to be really action-packed 6 months.
It's all you.
And we're looking forward to it. So I just want to say thank you again for the time, and I think we're energized to walk away from here and plan for the next year. I don't know if you have any questions or comments for me. See none. Back to you, Mr. President.
No, thank you, Comey, for the update. We're going to go up there and take a picture.